Welcome to Mark Bajerski YouTube channel. This is a video with regards to how do you actually truly know when somebody has an attachment to them. And that was a great question asked by Elizabeth that is now going through a challenge with her son. Many people believe that her son has demons within them, or the devil, or bad energy of something that is attached to them. And one of the questions she asks is, how do I know if my son is actually evil or if he has an attachment of some description? Do you know what? It's one of the most amazing questions I've ever had. Never been asked that before, and it's an interesting one. So the time that I was a healer and I used to go to people's houses, and children at the age of about 14, 15, 16, 17, sometimes had this energy within them that was very, very heavy, very negative. And unlike most other children, you could see that there was something very different from that child. A lot of the times when mothers used to go to so-called healers or soothsayers or psychics or, let's say, witch doctors, they would always then have this awful energy about them. And when they came to me, and they were convinced by so-called practitioners that their child had evil or entities within them. So there were many things that they used to do. There were many practices that they used to do, and obviously cost a fortune. One of them was the burning. That's basically a cigarette at the feet. That was one of the most common ones in Morocco, and what they used to do. So burn the evil out of the body. Then there's other things that they used to do. Normally a bath, and certain things that they used to put in the bath which cost €250 and so on. For me, I only heard about these things, but my work was quite simple really. It was basically to give a healing session. So what I would do, I would not think about what was happening to them. I wouldn't listen to what was said about them. I would simply smile at the child and lay them down on a healing bed and give a 1 hour healing. And after that 1 hour healing or two, I would normally have a great idea of what was going on. So I'm going to give you some ideas now and some experiences that may not be what you want to hear, but this is the real truth. Normally, one of the most common factors of a child going through this suffering is their parents. That's the first one. The second one is of somebody who has abused that child and the parents don't know. And then it goes on to where the children are bullied at school, or they are, let's say, in a situation in their life where they don't know how to move forward, and a build-up of energy within them accumulates to a point where their whole demeanor, their personality shifts and changes. These are just a few factors. Also, drugs. If a child is taking substances that the mum and dad don't know about, then that can change them completely as well, and can, in some cases, bring forward dark energy or entities within them. So that's a really interesting subject as well. All of these subjects have great meaning, and we can deep dive on every single one of them, but it would take far too long. It would take a full day. So to summarize, first of all, what we need to do is find out the truth. And the truth, there's a great saying, and that is, the truth will set you free. And actually, most people don't want to know the truth and run away from the truth. That's you and I, and our mums and dads don't want to know the truth. So they kind of make everything look good. They kind of convince themselves that everything's okay. And and the lie continues, and the pain and suffering continues. So the first thing I would say is the truth will set you free. So you have to be open to accepting truth. And that's one of the hardest things with your child, because a lot of the times your child is a reflection of your actions. So it doesn't matter how many times you say to your child not to do something, and try your best to make them a better version of yourself. At the end of the day, the child always mimics their mum and dad. So they will become a kind of mold of their mum and dad in anger, in love, in every form of emotion, whether positive or negative. So the first thing I would do is lie my client down, a girl or a boy, and give them a healing session. And I would feel what was going on inside them, and I would know instantly if I was working on the head predominantly. That normally means to me that the child has a lot of issues which are mental issues. And if I went to the heart, that would normally tell me that this is a real emotional state that they're in. And if I'm going to the stomach, it normally tells me that there's a lot of trapped stress, suffering, and other people's suffering and other people's angers that are lying within the stomach. So depending on where I'm going now, normally what I would find is the first thing is the head and the stomach is normally where I would go, those two places. And then the next place would be the heart. If I'm like saying on, let's say, if I was working on 100 children, I would say most of the children I'd work on is definitely the head and the stomach. So these two places are predominantly the places that I need to work, or any good healer would work. And the heart, the next level, that's the next, not level high, next level lower. So it may be the stomach and the heart. So that's kind of like common as well. But predominantly it's the head and the stomach. So that normally tells me there's a lot of stuff going on up here, mental wise, problems, issues at home, issues with their life. And the stomach is all of those issues that sit in the stomach. So after a healing session, you normally see the child feeling more relieved of heavy thoughts and negative thoughts in their mind, and they're a lot lighter and they feel a lot better. So once that's happened, you can see clearly that this isn't an entity per se, because the healing session was, let's say, kind of normal, just lying down, they just fall asleep, no real major issues, maybe a twitch or two because the energy of healing is running through the whole of the body, but predominantly nothing else but that. Now, if you're doing a healing session on somebody who has, let's say, a trapped spirit or entity or evil, whatever, if you sage that child, you'll find that the child will react extremely negatively. So if you put the sage all over the body, the entity within is like drinking parasite cleanse. So the entity, the parasite, is going to fight to stay and not to go, but at the same time it doesn't want to stay in that environment because it does not like sage smoke. So then it goes. So if, let's say, a child hates sage and doesn't go anywhere near it, it's normally an indication that there is quite possibly, not always, but quite possibly an entity or negative energy attached to them. And this isn't common, this is fairly rare, okay? So that's an indication. So if a child was in here, a teenager was in here and said, I'm not having this, I don't want it, and then start getting upset, I'd be saying, it's okay, no problem, don't worry, it's all fine, it's great, you'll be fine, you'll feel great. After this, you'll realize that the child isn't talking, the entity is talking for them. And a lot of the times, the kid would want to go and leave, but with enough love and enough reassurance, the child would stay and then just beat it. So the children are very strong. It's the adults which are the most of a struggle. They run out, they get angry and they're screaming and shouting. Kids are a little bit more respectful and they fight against whatever's going on inside them, because it is a fight. It's a fight against your body temple and something that it wants to reside in there. So Kids are normally better. So yeah, that's interesting. When you lie the teenager down or your child down and you're giving a healing session, you will see a reaction on the body which is not normal. So there could be movement within the body. So they could arch their back when they're lying down, or they could start saying such not very nice words, swear words. I've been through this twice or 3 times, so I know. And they're not in control of their body. Something else is in control. So for me, it was never a challenge. It was never, oh my God, what's going on here? It was like, I've done this before. And I had the stress. When the harder they were fighting with themselves and with whatever was in them, and the harder this entity was fighting against me, the more I was smiling, right? I had a big smile on my face, and darkness cannot stay with the light. I will not leave this beautiful soul until the darkness is gone. I would just keep feeding the love and healing and the smiles to the teenager who's lying down, or the mum or the dad who's lying down, and I could feel the burning. I could feel spirit coming into my energy and just burning this entity away. I don't like to call it evil, because it isn't evil. It just is what it is. It's a different form of energy. And I don't even like to give it strength or power or focus. So I'm just burning it away, and I just see light inside their body, and there's nowhere for this darkness to go. So within an hour and a half, 2 hours maximum, it's gone. It's gone. Nowhere to be seen. And never was there a time that I ever had a client that came back and said it's back again. So that's interesting. So, yeah, I don't really want to go on too much about the movement and the yes, they were swearing, they were screaming, but none of that meant anything. It didn't bother me. It was fine. It was just, they were fighting with whatever was inside them. So whatever was inside them was fighting them by, doing silly things. You see, this has always gone on for a long time. And Hollywood took the exorcism and just blew it out of proportion. So yeah, it may look like a child is elevating on the exorcist, right? But it isn't. All what happens is that they got this information from somebody who used to do exorcisms or cleansing. I don't like to call them exorcisms. It's a stupid word. It's just a clear energy from the body. They like to blow things up. Why? Ego, more money, I'm special, I'm better than you, I got a gift that you haven't. All the BS, right? So, yeah, you can see that the body's lifting, but that's because the heel, the ball of the foot is pushing down, and the shoulders are pushing down, and the body arches. And they've got a cloth on them. So to look at them, you think, oh my God, they're elevating. They're not elevating, they're just moving. And yes, they move further than a lot of people, and they're contortionists, because the body is moving because of whatever is inside them, whatever resides in them. But it's okay, because it's only a matter of time. Because this is showing you that the energy that you're pouring into your beautiful child is the energy of love and healing. And the more you do that, the more the darkness can't sit in there. So, some people often say to me, do you think that darkness can enter into a child when they're in a bad place? And I say, well, normally that was my clients. I never had a child who were happy that came with an entity attached to them. They were always either abused by an uncle or somebody that they never said anything about, and I got to find out after the healing session. And that was awful. Of course it was, but they need to release it, you see. And when you've been abused, then you're open to your energy changes, and darkness feels that and feeds from it. I talk about this often, about spirit trapped in between two worlds. So, when you are heavy and dense and sad and upset, yes, it's very possible that you vibrate at a frequency or a radio station that radio signal attaches or connects to spirit trapped in between two worlds, who enjoys that energy and enjoys that frequency and vibration. So it's kind of like feeding, but it's not feeding them, it's just vibrating, so it makes them more stronger. It's quite deep when you start looking into it, but it's very, very simple to understand. So, okay, so now I'm going to share with you what I believe is some of the trademarks of being a host for entities, right? So through my experience, my own personal experience, and the experience of my clients. First of all, there's a haziness about you. You're not yourself. And there's something in that. You're not really you. You're not yourself at the moment. You don't look yourself. You don't seem yourself. That was definitely one sign. You're not yourself because you're not in control of yourself. So you don't do things that you would normally do. Like you've never done that before. Why are you doing that? Why? So your actions are very, very different from your normal actions. So again, another sign. What you say out of your mouth sometimes can just come out, and it can be erratic. It can be heavy. It can be not like Tourette's, but it can be almost with an energy of there's anger, but there's also fear attached, because you don't know what you've got in you. You haven't got a clue. Your mum never told you this. The school never told you this. The doctors never told you this. So you're going to have to figure this out for yourself. Now, that's an awful thing if nobody's there to help you. Okay? So I went through this. It's like, but I was lucky. I was doing spiritual work at that time. I just started, and I made a phone call, and I said, and I figured out who was in me, who would attach to me. And it was incredible. I wrote it in my book. Read the book. It's £5, and it's on markbajerski.com, and you can buy it and download it on an ebook. Read the book. It's in there. So it's like I figured it out because I was working in this energy. So I knew who it was, and I put the pieces together. Now, how are you to know that? If you're not doing this work, if it's all new to you, you don't. So, it's difficult for you to, or for your child to navigate through this challenging time. And to other people, it could clearly see that you're going crazy, or there's something wrong with you. You need to be sectioned or locked up. The other thing is you can talk to yourself as well. So, and here's where it becomes really interesting. And there's two paths here. Sometimes we can talk to ourselves without the even knowledge of this brain knowing that we're talking to somebody by our side in the spirit world. That is a separate thing. When you talk to yourself in this manner, this is more erratic, it's more dense, it's more heavier, it's more challenging. There's no love in it, it's all fear. Whereas when you talk to yourself and there's a member of family with you and you don't even know you're talking to a member of family, and I've seen this many times. Somebody could be walking on a street talking to themselves, and a member of them spirit world family is next to them listening. So basically, what comes out of the mouth is what the soul is speaking. So this is just an after effect of what the soul is talking to somebody in spirit, because you talk to people in spirit every day, all the time. Oh, no, I don't. Oh, yes, you do. Oh, yes, you do. You have a conversation all the time. And then that energy comes up into your brain. And then you think, oh, this is a thought. This is a feeling. This is what I should do and shouldn't do. You're already talking. It's all coming from here, right? It's a bit difficult. It's a bit deep, eh? A bit too much for most people. Probably all gone by now. But it is the truth. It really is the truth. It is my truth anyway. So, yeah, it's a challenge because you feel lost. You feel like there's nobody there to help you. You can't go to a doctor. Your mum and dad don't understand. You don't know what the hell's going on. Why am I like this? And all I said to my beautiful clients, and if you're watching this now and you feel any of these things, that there might be something in this, there's a real easy way out. There's a real easy way to clear this, so don't worry about it. It's really simple. If there is an entity attached to you, if there is a bit of darkness attached to you, it's really easy, and I'll take you through that in a minute. But when you're feeling what you're feeling, do I want to go down this path or not? Why not? Let's do it, okay? Nobody's ever died from having an attachment to them. I am more worried about the people out there when I'm walking on the streets than any spirit trapped in between two worlds or any attachments or any negativity, right? So let's just get that straight, okay? This isn't a fear-mongering, which, you know, lots of psychics and mediums and all that put to you, so you bow down to them and you're scared and you run to them and you need their help. That's all nonsense. It's really easy, okay? So here's what you can do. You can sit down and meditate. And you can separate you from that entity. How do you do that? Well, go and cleanse yourself with a salt bath. Put some nice oils on and hold some crystals. And then put some nice music on. My preferred music is Gregorian chants. Oh, you're religious. No, I'm not, but it worked. I don't know why. They don't like it. So put French Gregorian chants, put the music on, then put your seat in the centre of the room. Make sure the room's nice and warm, not too cold. Sit down and then put the music on and just be at peace. Just be at peace. Even if you feel you feel crap and this entity's in you and you feel like you're being controlled, don't worry, just sit there. And then start to awaken your flame. Who you are and who the entity is, by separating the two. So you know who you are. I am Mark Bajerski, or whatever your name is. I am loving, I am kind, I am strong, I am caring. That is you. And now who is this in me? And start to ask the question in your mind, who is this? And normally you'll start to have a conversation with the entity. So I had a conversation, and so did the psychics and healers who were around me trying to clear it away. And it was interesting because they figured out who it was, and I'd already knew who it was. And they said, this is a male person. So you can feel if it's feminine or masculine. You can feel it. No problem. You can feel the energy. Who is it and why are they here and why are they around you? What is it you did? Well, what I did was I started psychic work. And who was the entity? Well, the mother of the entity, the son of the entity, the mother of the mother of the entity was in Fuengirola. And I said to my wife then, we're no longer together, you know that guy who killed himself of alcohol poisoning and whatever, he was a bully? She said, yeah. I said, was he related to your mum's friend who's with you now? And she went, yeah, that was the son. Oh my God, that's who's in me. That's who's around me, right? So I started having a battle with him because he was saying to me, I want you to go and tell my mum this and that and the other. And I'm saying, I'm not telling your mum nothing. You're not bullying me. So we're having a fight inside. I know it sounds crazy. I know it does. Why? Because you don't hear this. This isn't reality. This isn't written in books. This isn't told at your school. But it happened. And that is exactly my truth. Hand on my heart, I swear to God, look in my eyes, that was the truth. So I'm like, okay, now I know what it is. I'm angry. I didn't know how to get rid of him, right? Then I didn't know what I was doing. So I rung Shirley. She's up on the wall over there. I said, Shirley, I don't know what's going on inside me, but there's something inside me. There's somebody, something inside. I didn't say much more than that. She said, just come down, come down. She didn't want to know, just come down. The seat was ready. Shirley was there and a few other ladies were there. And I think there was a guy there. And so she sat me down and started saging me a little bit with sage, but then put the hands on me and then started talking. And I started swearing. I started doing this. I was so angry. I just want to get it off my chest and tell everybody to F off. And this isn't me. This is somebody else, right? And inside the feelings of not being strong enough to be able to cope with whatever's going on, the guilt of swearing, the guilt of me having to, was awful. It was awful. Anyway, right? It was awful, but it didn't kill me, okay? It was just awful. That's as bad as it gets. It's just awful, right? So when that awful's gone, right, I'm sat outside and it was pretty much like that. A flat was pretty much like that. So I sat outside, right, when it was gone, and they knew it was gone, and I knew it was gone. I sat out and she made me a cup of tea, and she came out, and I said, you know what, Shirley? I said, I'm not doing this no more. I don't want to do this work no more. I said, I can't believe, it's so bloody horrible. I'm like, I'm not doing it no more. And she left me for a while, and she came back. She said, you know what, Mark? You're going to be a great healer one day. You're going to be a great spiritual guide to many people. She said, what could be more beautiful than going through this pain to be able to know how to share it and how to help people? How would you ever know how to really do it if you don't go through it? So for me, she was absolutely right. And that was it. That was enough for me to say she's right. There's no way I could have taught this without the experience. So the one thing I share with you is this. One bit of comfort, that what you're going through tells me that you are a beautiful guide and a kind, caring, loving soul. So when people say, oh, you've got evil in you and you're bad and da-da-da, maybe there is people that are bad and do bad things and bully and are nasty. There are, and then there's people who have attachments. So the difference is, in my opinion, you can feel when somebody has attachments in the sense of it's not who they are. Now, if you've been brought up from a child and you've grown up and you're starting to get angry and you start bullying and you start being awful and just being awful all the time, there's a chance that you've grown up seeing things that you shouldn't have seen, and you are, as a person, aggressive. You are angry, and maybe there's trademarks in you that are in your parents, and maybe what you've been through, the pain and suffering of everyday life and the challenges, and you might have been beaten up on the street or anything that's turned you the way you are. But normally, when you've been hurt and when bad things have happened to you, normally you become more sensitive to that, and you are not really somebody who abuses somebody because you've had that done to you, that hurt. So normally I don't see people who have been beat end up being beaters as much. They say that when you've been abused, you end up growing and abusing others. But for me, I never really saw that too much in the 2 decades, but it could be, and you might be completely right. But we're trying to identify here, and that's why I'm saying this conversation can go in thousands of directions, and you could be pointing at the screen saying you don't know what you're talking about, you're not saying the right thing, and I'm probably not saying the right thing, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong, because what I'm talking about may be right, and I haven't touched upon what you've been through, or what you know that your son is, or what you're like. So we're trying to identify here if we know the difference between somebody who is connected to a spirit, an entity, darkness that is within you. And I'm trying to give you some ideas of this notion that, oh, that person's got an entity. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. He's just in a bad place, and he's using all excuses. And that normally is pointing outside or saying there's something inside that is controlling him, which means that he hasn't the strength to be able to fix or heal whatever he's going through. And that is a very common thing, blinded by the weakness of not being able to find the strength within, or any way to find reasons to clear the pain and suffering that we go through. So there's a lot of kids in denial, and a lot of kids kind of point the finger at other things. So for me, when somebody has an attachment, it's real. It's real. So a lot of the times, you can meet somebody, or I can meet somebody who's a woman who's saying, oh, I've got curses and evil. And I know they haven't got curses or evil attached to them. I know it's just they're going through something terrible in their life, and they need something to say this is why, instead of looking at their life. And a lot of the times I would speak to the entity within. I'll give you a great example. My son used to have a terrible temper. And one day he came over here because he was with his mum. And I'd just done this, I'd worked with a couple of shamans, and they were doing this cleansing of negative energy or entity. They never used to say it was as bad things like loads of people put out there, but it was basically a cleansing. And I'd seen it a few times that the change within them, whether it was physical issue became no physical issue, you know, like somebody might have I don't want to go down that path because that's even too heavy for most people to even understand. Not even this is going to be palatable for most people, so there's no point me talking about it. But let's suffice to say, I've seen miracles after a ritual of cleansing of these dark energies. The child was able to move again, and certain parts of the body they couldn't move. So I've seen this, and I know it exists, and I know that sometimes our physical is connected to the emotional and connected to something that resides within us. So I thought, I don't know why, but I said to my son, you know, and he was only about 8 or something like that. I might have been a bit older. Anyway, I said to him, it was my son, and I thought, I'd like to do something, and it's basically I put some candles around you and do some healing and something like. Anyway, he agreed straight away, and I said to him, it might get rid of your anger. He acknowledged his anger, so I did a healing session, and after when I'd finished, I'd mentioned the word Thomas or Tom, I can't remember, but he said, Dad, you were speaking to something or somebody in me. He said, that's really strange. He says, because when I was a little boy, he said, I remember having a friend who was invisible, and I used to call him the same thing. After that, he grew stronger and stronger, and his anger, I haven't seen his anger at all. So I thought, that's interesting. Maybe we did something, maybe we didn't. But funny why I was talking to somebody that was in him. And I've done that quite a few times, maybe 100 times, maybe 200 times since that time up until now. So I've done that kind of work, and it's very normal in my world. But it's very rare. I mean, there's how many billion people in this world, and how many thousands of sessions have I done? But only a couple of 100 times I've had to help somebody clear something from them. So, like I said, knowing the difference. There is a change from one moment to the next, and that change is my son isn't, or my daughter, or my mom, or my dad isn't the same. They're different. They seem different. That's quite sensible to say, right? If they're not the same, there's something wrong. It could be this. It could be. But again, lots of fingers pointing at me saying, oh, you're talking crap. There could be so many other reasons. Of course there is. So how do you fix this? Well, I've got to say, and I'm not here to sell anything, but if you learn how to sage, and you sage that person, and no matter how much they get upset and scream and shout, you just keep saging them. And the best way to do that is on a seat like this. So basically, you go and get yourself a wooden bowl, and you go and buy some sage, and you break that sage down into little pieces and put it in the bowl, and then set the sage on fire with a lighter and an extension to it so it goes in, and then as it blow, and then the sage starts to burn, but it doesn't burn quickly, so just keep blowing until the cinders get more and more and more, and then the smoke gets more and more. Just bear with it, because it takes some doing, right? I could tell you loads of secrets of how to do it better and how easy it is, but there's no point. I just want you to just do it nice and simple. So once you've done that and you're blowing and there's loads of smoke, get down on your knees and start blowing the smoke around your mum, your dad, your daughter, your son. Blow the smoke around them. Go around the body. Go down on the floor and keep blowing. And I don't want you to stop blowing. Keep blowing. Keep blowing. And the more the smoke is, the more it's going to help them. The more they might get angry, the more they start kicking off. Don't worry. Just keep going. And I would suggest you do that for a minimum of 10 minutes. If you can do it for 20 minutes, then that's almost like saying, well, there's no chance that that spirit will reside in that body anymore, because it does not like the energy. Trapped spirit in between two worlds does not like sage, but it can move from sage. So what you're trying to do is move it away from the body. There is something about And I don't know why, I can't explain this at all, but once you've saged that body, they won't come into that body. It's done. I have never had to do it again. And here's another thing. Sage the whole of the house as well. So if you can sage the whole of the house and you go and buy yourself a big bag of sage, a big bag of sage, a big bag, and go around the whole of the house, even if it takes 3 hours, I don't care. Every single room, and it needs to look like there's smoke, and there's so much smoke that you can't see ahead of you within, I don't know, half a meter, whatever, just that much. If you can see any more than that, it's not enough. So you've got to keep blowing and blowing, and you've got to just fill it so it's fogged up. And you need to do every room. You need to do the toilets, the bathroom, the living room, the kitchen. You need to go upstairs. You need to do all the landing. You need to do the stairwell. You need to do everywhere. All the windows and doors need to be shut. Then you need to do any place where spirit can run to, because it can move to out of that energy. So if you get into the cellar, the roof inside, if there's a roof, you can open it's all in there, right? If you do it properly, then you will have no more negativity, you will have no more spirit trapped in between two worlds in that house, and you will have no more negative energy in the person that you're cleansing. It really is that simple. So if you want to do it the other way, you can lay your hands on them. But that way, the problem is it's normally too close and it's too personal. So if my daughter came here and she was freaking out, I think it might be a bit too personal for me. So I'd become so personal that it wouldn't work for me. Actually, that's not true. I would be able to do it because I've learned to switch off. So I'm just saying that maybe to make you feel better. But actually, I could do it because I've been doing it so many years. And you have to learn to switch off. But if you can find a healer, pure energy healer, there's loads of them, they know how to do a healing session, and they know not to become personal, because that's part of the journey of becoming a good healer, a great healer, a powerful healer, which means that you bring this energy in and there's no interference with your thoughts and your feelings. So you just become an open vessel for this energy to come in and clear whatever. So after a healing session, it's normally fixed, it's done, as long as you get a good healer that isn't in a bad place. So the healer has to be 100% in mind, body and spirit healthy. Palo Santo sticks are fantastic. Burning them every night is a wonderful thing. Crystals around the house are fantastic because they vibrate at great energy. Putting lemons around the house always gives a great indication. If the lemon goes off, that means you've got negative energy in the house and you should cleanse the house. Always keep the house cleansed. Always use sage. Always use Palo Santo. And these are the tools that I use, and these are the tools that I've used for 20 years, and they're the same tools that I sell on markbajerski.com. I'm not doing this to sell anything, but I am here to say what I've shared with you is a short version of a 1 to 2 day course on how to see if there is a spirit trapped in between two worlds. There are certain things you can use at the time to help, which is garlic, strangely enough, and chocolate. It's got to be cacao, so it's got to be not Cadbury's, 90% chocolate. Let them suck that, eat the garlic, and you'll find that it brings a new energy into the body. I don't know why, but it does. It does make a difference. But there is nothing that can touch sage. Nothing. Sage is the ultimate cleanser of spirit trapped in between two worlds, or entities, or evil, whatever you want to call it. And of course it would be, because Mother Earth always has the cure and the answer. I hope this video serves you well. I hope I've answered at least partly some of the question, and I hope I've given you some, tips on what to do now and to how to move forward. And it's all okay. And it always will be, and it always is. Smile, be strong, and trust in the work that you do if you're going to do it yourself. And if you're not, then I'll leave a link below to the healers that I know, because they've personally worked with me, and they are pure energy healers, and they're brilliant at their job, and they can do this work anywhere in the world. So they can help you wherever you are for sure. But the simple steps of sage should be something that you should definitely try. Okay, thank you so much. I'll leave a link below to the Pure Energy Healers Worldwide that I recommend. And also I'll leave a link to my website, and have a look, and you might find some really interesting things on there. Take care.